Radio St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have as part of our program this morning the seismologist monitoring the volcano at La Soufriere, Roderick Stewart online. Hello and good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm actually at Nemo at the moment, so I haven't got video for once, but I'm doing a few things in town. But yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, Prime Minister Gonsalves will also be joining us via the telephone this morning. So both of our usual guests are not at their usual location, so that's all right. To begin, we always like to look back at the day before and then walk right into today. So if we can just start from that point.
Okay, well, the last 24 hours has been quiet, as have several 24-hour periods. There's really nothing to report. There's just a few volcanic earthquakes and no other activity and no lahars either. So it's been a relatively quiet 24 hours.
All right. And what, in terms of the monitoring process by you and your team today, what can we expect? Any special plans for observation today or monitoring?
No special plans. We just continue to monitor. We have some colleagues here from the UK who will be doing some fieldwork, and we'll be supporting them. We'll support. I'm not sure what the UN team are doing, but we support them if necessary. But really, we're getting ready for a handover. I'm due to leave on Friday, and we've got other people coming in, taking over as the scientific team lead. So preparations for the handover is really what we're doing at the moment.
And just to reiterate that the alert remains at red and the advisory is still for persons not to head into the red zone?
Yes, that is definitely the case. People should not be in the red zone. And, we see videos or photographs online of people hiking, and it's terrible. It scares me because the deposits are still hot at depth, and there could be terrible accidents if people are in there. And, then you're endangering their life. Hang on. Yeah.
Okay, I just missed what you said there briefly. I didn't quite get that. So if you can just repeat.
Yeah. I'm in a room with other people, so there's people talking. But yes, if people go to these places, they're not only endangering their own lives, they're endangering the lives of the rescue personnel who will have to come and rescue them if there's been an accident. So really strongly tell people they should not be going exploring because it is not safe at the moment.
Okay, I'm just trying at this time to bring in Prime Minister Gonsalves. So just stay with us for a minute. Prime Minister Gonsalves, good morning. Okay, we're going to try that. We'll try that connection once more. We're just going to make some more connections there. So as we continue to... All right, we're going to bring in... There seems to be a bit of an issue on the connection with the line, so we're going to try this again. Hello? See from studios of Richmond Hill in Kingstown, and Professor Stewart, Mr. Stewart, Dr. Stewart is online, and we're just trying to have... hello, good morning, Prime Minister.
Yeah, I'm there now.
Yes, Prime Minister, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Rod.
Hi, good morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from home this morning. Good morning, listeners. Good morning, NBC Radio. What happened, I got up and there's some things which I had to do quite urgently. So I had to do it this way. And I feel better being in the studio, but there it is. Now, we will know later today because there's some early warnings prediction, not yet firmed up, that we may have some rains as we get to the weekend and over the weekend. I hope we don't have it excessively. Predictions, these predictions this far out, they're not as accurate as you get closer to the event. I'm talking from a meteorological standpoint. But if we get rains, it means also that we have to be extremely careful, as we saw with the Lahars. Are you there with me,
Professor Stewart?
Yes, can you hear me?
Are you hearing Prime Minister Gonzalez?
Did you hear me? Did you hear me, Roderick?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
But did
Yes,
you hear
I
what
hear
I
you.
said just now?
You were talking about the prediction for...
Yeah. Just well,
rain
they're
over the
very
weekend.
early indications. They're not yet predictions. But when you get them, you have to, in a situation like this, you have to even begin early to say, listen, at least people to listen carefully as we going forward.
Yeah.
Every single day to the weather reports.
Yeah.
Because
true.
being armed with the information about rains from this, because we have been having early rains before the June hurricane season.
Yeah.
That we need to listen very carefully, all our citizens, all our residents, to what's happening with the rainfall. All over the country, really, we have to listen, because we saw what happened in Kingston, Rockies, and Sharps, and so forth. Not just in the red zone and the orange zone, but other places across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because those who don't get lahars will get ordinary floods and landslides. So I was just alerting persons as you were speaking about La Soufriere, about the volcano. I was just adding that we have to bear that in mind, the weather system, and I'm sure you will reinforce that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I want just to report, while I have you on, that yesterday at our special meeting of cabinet, just before we considered the supplementary estimates and supplementary appropriation bill, at least the draft, that we had the Seismic Research Center. Rod was on, and so too was Professor Robertson with us, and Dr. Joseph in a Zoom meeting. It was a very good discussion, because we are going to, yesterday, Rod, I also did what is obligatory. I discussed the matter about the recommendation to go to the orange zone, to go to orange alert, sorry. I discussed it yesterday afternoon, with the National Emergency Council. And Cabinet has to make a decision today. Because the advice is to go on orange, to orange alert, that indicating that people can go back to the orange areas, save and except some particular areas, obviously like Chateaubriand and Fitzhugh, where still have a lot of ash. And we don't want people to go back where we have a lot of ash still, to give the government some time to clear up and to deal with some other practical socio-economic issues on the ground and physical questions. I think that's your broad advisory too.
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good discussion yesterday, and it's now been, 10 days since the last explosion, and there's been no signs of other explosions coming. So our recommendation was that you could go back to the orange alerts. But it was with the proviso that, explosions could still occur within a 24-hour period without warning, and therefore people have to stay out of the red zone, because that's the real danger zone.
Yes.
So go back to the orange level, and the orange zone can be reoccupied.
Yes.
And unless you've got other, as you say, social considerations about clearing up. But volcanologically, we're happy to go down a level.
So you go back on Friday.
Yeah, and I go back to Montserrat on Friday.
And then who comes up?
Okay, well, there's a bit of confusion because it was meant to be Lloyd Lynch from Trinidad, but he's delayed. So Adam Stinson is coming down from Montserrat on Friday, and then Lloyd will be here sometime next week to take over. As
I didn't hear who you say was coming down from Montserrat. I didn't get the name.
Adam Stinson. He came down with Dr. Christopher on the first trip that we had. So he's been here before.
Okay. And Dr. Christopher is okay.
Yeah. He's doing fine. You'll be hearing from him.
Okay.
And then, as I said, Mr. Lynch will be here next week. I'm not sure exactly what day. He will take over as the team lead.
All right. And then Professor Robertson comes back some other time in your normal rotation.
We've got to modify the rotation a bit because myself, Dr. Christopher, Professor Robertson all stayed much longer than we were scheduled to stay for. Yeah. So we have to see how we fit back in. But she will be back and I will be back as well.
Well, we really appreciate everyone's work, and you specifically, and I want to thank you publicly for the tremendous work you've been doing, Roddy, and you've been very, very instrumental to us holding this thing together. And these daily advisories, people look forward to them.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I mean, for me, it's been an honor to work here, and the reception I've had from people of St. Vincent at all levels has been absolutely amazing, and it makes my job a lot easier when people appreciate what we do. So I'm very glad to have been here, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
Thanks very much, Rod.
Okay, see you again.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stewart. I will continue with Prime Minister Gonsalves.
Yes, well, what I just want to do is to report a little fuller on a couple of things. First of all, to indicate, yesterday we had all the permanent secretaries attending cabinet with us, so that we could get any particular detail we wanted to right on hand in relation to the finalization of the draft estimates, supplementary estimates. And we had a good detailed discussion on that. And today, well, last evening I got the corrected version. I went through that, and we will do the final approvals at cabinet today for immediate circulation to the Parliament, so that the honourable members in the opposition and persons who are not in the cabinet would get copies, hopefully by later today or tomorrow morning, depending on how fast everything moves. Well, I'm hoping that is the case, because on Monday we have the select committee. We have the Standing Committee on Finance, which is a committee of the whole House, to discuss them before we go to Parliament itself on Tuesday. Yesterday also, in fact, as soon after we finished the cabinet meeting, we had to hurry up to the NIS building, where we had the National Emergency Council meeting of NEMO. It was a very good meeting too. We had about 2 hours of discussion, where we received the relevant reports and addressed the questions on an ongoing basis, the challenges which we have on an ongoing basis, and to point towards further improving and our system of delivery of services. in this difficult period. We're going to have several months of support of a humanitarian kind. Of course, we want to see how we can move back to the orange zone very swiftly for us. Then make sure that everything is in order in the red zone, the cleanup of the ash, the return to electricity in those areas where there have been challenges. Gart Saunders reported that from CWSA that the water had been returned to Fitzhughes the day before. So Chateaubriand and Fitzhughes, they have water. And then they were doing the restoration up to, trying to do that up to the Orange Hill really. But that's in the red zone because they have to sort that out at Perseverance, which is the catchment which deals with that particular area. The UNEP, the agency from the United Nations dealing with the clearing up of the ash, they have submitted their initial assessment, preliminary report as to the sort of things which we need to do and how we need to partner together, obviously, on cleaning up the ash. You know, there's an estimate which was done in the SIDIMA report that in cleaning up the ash for this year, you're going to require monies, I mean, in terms of equipment and all what you have to do. The sum of about $28 million and a further $10 million for subsequent cleanup of the same ash, because you're not going to do everything fully in this particular period. It's a massive effort, which is required, and this is to clear the roads, the drains, the river mouths, all the areas where you have the ash, the state the government buildings in all the various areas. So that's going to be a huge effort. And then we have to do the more detailed assessment for the damage and loss, so that we can then set ourselves on a program for recovery. Clearly, even at this stage, we have to do we have to do in this humanitarian period, we have to have resources put aside for some recovery. Like, for instance, when farmers go back on their farms, we have to provide assistance with the agricultural production. But while we assist them with agricultural production, we also have to assist them with some income support, on a monthly basis for several months while they're getting their production back up. Well, because the bananas have to take some time to come to fruition, the sweet potatoes, whatever crops. So so that recovery part, the fishers, some of them need some equipment and so on and so forth. So it's even at this stage, we have to begin to look at how we can get back the productive sector going. We received a report from. Oh, let me just continue on the supplementary estimates. I just want persons to realize that what going to come in the supplementary estimates do not take account of what other agencies would be doing, like for instance the United Nations agencies, the agency dealing with health and PAHO WHO, then the UNEP, UNEP, the Environmental Program Agency, where they're interfacing with us with the matter of the ash, the World Food Program in terms of social safety net supports like vouchers and cash grants, and they will do some of that stuff, while we would also do some ourselves, so that there has to be coordination of all those efforts. The government itself is not spending money given to the UN agencies or allocated by the UN for them. For example, I give that by way of example, or indeed monies which have come from development agencies and given to the Red Cross. The Red Cross delivering packages. Yesterday the Red Cross reported that thus far they had delivered 550 packages, food packages, to 2 weeks packages for homes in the for the evacuees. They naturally would want to go. They want to ramp up much further, a number 1,250, 1,500 packages. We ourselves, through the government, we have already delivered over 6,000 packages to homes where there are evacuees, and we have delivered packages to some communities in the orange zone where they have been having some challenges of coping, given the extent of the ash and so forth, even though they did not move. And the World Central Kitchen, they're now up to about 7,000 meals per day, and they do most of it out in the communities where they're in the families who have evacuated in homes, and also some of it in the orange zone at about 100 different locations, and all those things have to be coordinated. Plus, of course, the other agencies who would chip in, like the Seventh-day Adventists and so on and so forth. And the government itself clearly does the bulk of everything, including the shelters and the deliveries to the homes of the evacuees who are in private homes and some in the orange zone, as well as providing lunches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 7,000 persons who access those things in the shelters, access those meals in the shelters. So it's a massive operation, and at the same time, the delivery of things like mattresses continue unabated. I just want to make that point, and still the popular mattresses clearly are the double ones, and not the single ones. So that is and persons when they provide, when they're waiting, I just want to advise persons when they're waiting for mattresses and stuff of that kind, try and see if they can have their phones with them and answer the phone, because it's quite an operation. I mean, it's sometimes people have to call 2, 3, 4 times. I'm talking about Nemo. Sometimes for persons before they answer, and some people change their telephone numbers or use a different telephone, or they might have 2 telephones and they give one number. They just have to help also Nemo in getting everybody. I don't think that some people understand the actual practical challenges in some of these things, and the Nemo people are doing a pretty good job, and they're improving all the time, and so to the volunteers. I think those are the central things I want to report there on. And then I had a discussion this morning with the chief medical officer, because she gave a report yesterday of being concerned about the shelters where you have people don't want to do the testing, and difficulties created, and as in the case where they had to lock down 2 shelters, some people are being wholly unreasonable. You don't want to take the test, but you don't want to follow the protocols within the shelter. And when they lock it down, you want to create some 1 or 2 people, not the bulk of persons. Overwhelmingly, people, when you lock it down, respect it. But there are some people who want to create security difficulties by saying you can't stop them doing this, that, and the other. And I mean, I don't know why our security forces already have to deal with other things. If there's a problem which is created in the shelter, just cooperate with the health authorities. There's no reason why you are trying to make a bad, to put it in local parlance. Everybody needs to be reasonable and cooperative with this thing. And always, we need more volunteers, because some of the volunteers are also subject to burnout, like everybody else. And we need people also have husbands and wives and partners and children and the like. And it is not reasonable to expect somebody to volunteer 12, 14 hours per day, 7 days a week. It is a real challenge, and it's a massive operation, I can tell you, with hundreds upon hundreds of volunteers and reassigned public sector workers. And public sector workers working hours, overwhelmingly working hours way beyond they would normally work if they were at their regular jobs. And I appeal to everybody to get everybody over 18 to get tested for COVID, and I appeal to everybody over 18 to take the vaccine. Otherwise, we are not going to get back to normal, and we are in danger of having a particular, having a spread in the country, and that would be very, very dangerous for public health, for the society, for the economy, and bring additional hardship and pain and suffering. I think by now everybody knows what these facts are, and we can't treat them lightly. I think those are the central issues. I got a report from the Commissioner of Police in relation to security. Spoke to him last night, spoke to him this morning, and things are normal. There was just a case where we got someone with an unlicensed firearm, somebody who had one of the evacuees. So that was the only thing which was reported of any real consequence, or the other little things. But That's only one of that, and by and large, we are having everybody in a mode of social solidarity, but you have a few persons here and there who want to make it difficult for everybody, and because the place is small, because the country is small, even a few persons creating dissonance can have a deleterious effect. And I'm urging all persons to be responsible in their commentaries and be balanced and don't get hysterical, be calm, and let us be focused on this many-sided challenge of monuments proposals. I think those are the central issues which I have to we have been addressing, and at the same time I continue and the government continues, the public servants, we continue to do all our work with the outreach, with the regional, international community, and do all the other things that we have to be doing on an ongoing basis in the government. But obviously, the challenge created by both COVID and the volcano, and with the looming hurricane season, and the weather's coming, the rain coming on earlier, that these are things and the consequences that get in our focus. I don't know if any questions are coming in, and I'm prepared to answer.
Prime Minister, you raised this, I think, was sometime this week. Someone is asking the support that you mentioned to households, if and when that will be implemented.
Oh, the support would be after when we pass the estimates. I mean, additional support to households,
Yes,
because
please.
we're already giving support to households. All the usual supports continue, including public assistance and the like, and the food and so on and so forth. All those things continue in the normal way. When we pass the estimates on the 11th, and I'm hopeful that we get through on the 11th. We don't tarry unnecessarily on it. I intend to go into midnight or beyond, because I want it in a day or so after for it to be put in proper form, to go to the Governor General, the appropriation bill for assent, and then to be published. The appropriation bill would then be published in the Gazette. So, and then the public servants will take a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks, in order to get all the administrative machinery in place, like, for instance, the numbers of farmers in the red zone, because the idea is to give farmers in the red zone certain monthly supports once they move back. So those in the red zone not going to get until we give the all clear to leave the shelter. You can't be in the shelter and be getting the income support. But when you go out of the shelter, that income support will begin for persons in the red zone. So, and then not just the farmers, but the non-farmers would also get support. That's the intention. And for farmers in the orange zone, we will have some, one-off payments and so forth, as we have done in the past. But we'll help everybody with production supports. So those in the orange zone who require production supports will begin to get that earlier than, say, those in the red zone, because those in the orange zone are going to go home earlier. And we want, after, for the households, we want to see if we can substitute the matter of delivering food to you with giving you a voucher, which would be tenable at a range supermarkets, so that you can purchase what you want to purchase. Of course, the voucher, you wouldn't be able to purchase things like rum and cigarette. So there are different modes of assistance that we are going to have. And the World Food Program also going to have also some supports, as I mentioned before. So there are persons who are asking, who are going to the Ministry of Agriculture and say that they heard that Ralph said that they will get compensation for their crops which they lost. I didn't say that. I said you're going to get income support and you'll get agricultural production support. The volcano destroy your crops. We are supporting you either in the shelter in your homes, and we're going to assist you with getting your production back up. But there's not a question of compensation for the crops which have already been damaged. We will provide the support to get yourself back on their feet. That's the idea.
Okay, there's another question, Prime Minister. There are some folks in the green zones and in other communities who generally would depend on produce from farmers in the red zone, things like chive and the other peppers to do seasoning and so forth.
Yes.
Someone is raising the issue that they employ two additional persons to help in that, but they're not able to get these supplies to continue that part of their small business. In what is there in that for them? I think.
You mean in the red zone and in the.
So the person who makes let's say seasoning and all those
these
things,
are people outside of the red
yes,
zone.
in the green zone, Prime Minister.
In the green zone.
Yes, the one is specific to the.
Well, I don't know that had been considered, but I can ask the people in the Ministry of Agriculture and Industry to get an idea as to what is the universe of those numbers. But we had been providing support for persons with the COVID who had not with the COVID as a consequence of the COVID. You remember, we continue to give income support to workers and the like. And I don't know how many of these in these categories, but I can inquire about that. But I'm glad that is brought to my attention.
Yes. There is another question about the cleaning of roads as we return to communities. Would BRAXA be assisting in the cleaning of secondary roads? And I'm not too sure if you have an idea at this time. How far are they in terms of the cleanup on the leeward side?
They are. I'm not sure how far they have reached at the moment on the leeward side. I'll get a report today on that. But they're moving. They're doing work every single day. So I'm sure they would have gone past. They've gone into the North Leeward area. They've certainly gone into the North Leeward area, and we will be cleaning the secondary roads too. I mean, you have a place like Georgetown which has a lot of secondary roads. You know, a lot of these roads on both sides of the main street. You have to clean those too. So everywhere the same thing. Barley is in the orange zone. No, Barley is in the yellow zone. And other villages where you have side roads, they have to be clean, not only the main road.
Okay.
That's why, and you have to clean by the rivers. The drains are a big one. You know, so that's. I know. I just want to say this: that CWSA has pointed out that when you go back, if you're using the water from CWSA to do the cleaning, they're advising against that, and you're subject to being disconnected. So that we'll have, obviously, because that is so, we'll have to try and truck water, probably get the water out of rivers and things like that. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So to help people to clean up.
And incidentally, just at the same time you spoke about CWSA.
It's a practical measure, you know.
Yeah, a question came in about rebates for persons in those zones who had to clean up because they assume that they would be using water. But the question has always been to conserve the water.
Absolutely, yes. at this time, but we'll have to get the water. There are some areas. Has to be it's individual effort, but it also has to be coordinated. We have already, for instance, we've given duty-free concessions. We have shaped the fiscal policy to give duty-free concessions for things like the water pumps and hoses and the like, but not and pressure washers, but not everybody is going to be able to buy a water pump. But we may have enough water pumps where rivers are nearby now to pump the water in the communities. But we also will have to truck water to help people, to provide with the cleanup, because if everybody goes to use the pipe-borne water to clean up, you know what's going to happen. Yeah. You're going to run out of all the water.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, someone is inquiring about how can they assist. I work in Palm Island and I'm on mainland right now. How can I volunteer?
Just go down. Just call in at NEMO, the communication center. The numbers are up. I don't know them off the top of my head. You may be able to call them out.
Yes, I will. Yes.
And call them. There's a big communication center, as we explained yesterday. 20-something people are there. I mean, I went there myself and see it is a good operation. So that's how we're going to be able to increase the help. I just want to. But I'm very happy that people are calling in.
Yes. So the contact numbers for NEMO are 456-2975 and the hotline is 526-3000, and we'll share those numbers as we go through.
And they have more. They have that. Though that's the number. It has several lines.
Yes, please, Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the issue of COVID-19, as there is an uptick in cases at the shelters and the concerns there. There's a question and there's an ongoing discussion going on if in light of that, if there's any consideration at all for it to become mandatory, that's the taking of the vaccines.
No, I don't see that. First of all, you're going to need a larger police force or larger nursing service and people applying coercion if you don't want to take the vaccine. Or indeed, for the test. But the law has to be always used as a sword, a shield and not a sword, because that's not a practical thing. But an employee in a hotel can say, because you and CAFA, I read out that advisory that CAFA had advised that persons who are in frontline positions, including in the tourism and hotel sector. That's the people at the airports, seaports, immigration officers, customs officers, the airport workers, the port workers, the hotel workers, the people who serve you, the people who cook the food, the people who you interact with, the taxi men, and so on and so forth. For the cruise ship, the tour guides, additionally, and so forth. That the employer, whether state or private, legally can insist that you take the vaccine. And if you don't take the vaccine, they simply ask you, if the employer is so minded, not to come to work. And of course, if you don't work, you wouldn't get paid. Remember that issue which came to the fore when we were urging the teachers so to do, and the advisory which we had given, that if you don't vaccinate, to come and teach people's children, well, don't come to work. But that issue, as far as the teachers were concerned, which would resurface again, was shelved when the volcano erupted on the 9th, because people had to go back to work on the 12th. Remember that?
Yes.
The school. But so that in particular categories of employment, the employer can ask that, listen, you take the vaccine. And if you don't take it, don't come to work. And obviously, if you don't work, people who don't work don't get paid. So that is as far as I think you may be able to sensibly to go. I don't think a fellow who is a farmer is doing his own farm. You're gonna say, well, you're going to hold him down to give him the vaccine. No, I don't see that happening. You're not holding on anybody to give the vaccine. But there are certain employment units can say, listen, the employers can say, look, you don't take the vaccine, you can't work with us. You know, it's as simple as straightforward as that.
There's another question here, Prime Minister. What provisions are in place for persons who are traumatized? I suppose they're speaking about the psychosocial support, and who wish to, in particular, remove from the red zone and probably relocate on a more permanent basis within the yellow or green zones, and the potential for a reduction in the cost of lands in those zones.
We don't have a lot of state lands. One of the problems we have, we don't have a lot of state lands in the red zone and the yellow zone. Sorry, in the green zone and the yellow zone. And and also there's not a lot of state land suitable for housing, even in the orange zone and the red zone. The amount of land has been reduced significantly over the years because of the amount of distribution we have done. For instance, we ourselves in this government over the last 20 years. We can't ask a private person to sell their land cheaper to you. So what has to happen is that consideration clearly has to be given with great urgency. If you don't have enough land so that you can spread out on the ground, you have to go up in the air. So that buildings would have to be now like apartment houses and the like what happens in countries. It happens in Barbados, it happens in Trinidad, it happens in Jamaica, certainly in New York and Toronto and Washington and London and the other cities in the world. You know, Diane, you just don't have enough land space. So that has to be, for instance, if you have to build a housing settlement with 60 houses, 50 houses, it's plenty land you need. But if you're going to build a block of apartments with 50 apartments, 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, you can go up 3 stories. You see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And more, of course, in the United States and so on, you go up many stories. But so we all of that we have to change how we are doing things. But my impression is that the overwhelming majority of people who grew up and who have invested in building in the red zone, they're gonna go back. There, of course, there are also going to be sizable numbers who don't want to stay. Just like what happened in 1902 and happened after 1979. So since we built the Rebecca Bridge, a number of persons have gone back up, or at least families now, and they built beautiful houses from Rebecca right back to Fancy. You see the quality of houses. It's great. Of course, they're having between people who have built in places which are not. They shouldn't build there, like practically speaking, in a riverbed now. You have seen some of that, Dion.
Yes.
Or perched on near to a riverbed or something like that. I mean, clearly those houses, those which have not been destroyed, have to go. It would be foolhardy for anybody to go and live there.
Yeah.
In the light of all that has happened recently.
Yeah, I'm just giving a plug here, Prime Minister, to Dr. Joselle Miller, Andrea Games, Mohez, and the team. I think Kimberly Cambridge, Alicia Alves, they have been providing
tremendous work
during the night for psychosocial support. And they will be on again with us tonight on the night edition of this program again tonight. So I just wanted to give a plug to them.
Absolutely. And yesterday I was to try and have a conversation with Joselle, but God, if she's listening.
Yes, she is.
I'm under so much pressure of work in terms of the time now. It's really and today's another of those days. So that the online psychosocial work support which is being given is very important. In addition, of course, in the shelters, you have teachers and so forth who are counselors, people who are working in the educational system. And I have been advised a plan, a framework in which this work is being rolled out. And I'm happy to see that the online dimension of it is working.
Yes. Continuing on the issue of the land, somebody's asking if I acquire the land within those zones that are the green and the yellow, if there would be provisions for assistance in terms of the acquisition of building materials.
Well, in the budget which is coming up, we are going to have some monies in the supplementary. some money is for building materials. But I want persons always to know that the extent of the resources, the pot of money, which government has, is not inexhaustible, and we will assist, and you can rely on us to assist to the fullest extent of the means of the government. This is, so I can tell you that we have in some money in the estimate, in the supplementary estimates, for building materials. But I don't want persons already hearing that they in the though they're in need in say the orange zone, in the yellow zone and the green zone, that they begin to say, well, listen to me, we are in need. Help us the same way that you help somebody who has lost their home in the volcano. It's problematic. Everybody has to be reasonable in going forward. And I'm sure that difficult choices will have to be made at an individual level and at a national governmental level as to how the resources are allocated. Because I want to reiterate, in this humanitarian period, when people hear that X dollars have been given, $200,000 US or 200,000 pounds and so on, the money for the relief in this humanitarian period, that money has not come to the government. You know, they've gone to different agencies. This is how relief takes place. The international NGOs like the Red Cross, agencies like who do their own work, like the United Nations agencies, and like SIDEMA. But of course, we belong to SIDEMA, and they get resources. For instance, they will send, SIDEMA would help to send personnel here. Those personnel, they have to be paid. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You bring equipment, that equipment has to be bought. But that's so they're helping. The PAHO itself, they reported to me that already they have spent about $250,000 US dollars in respect of providing assistance in one form or another, technical assistance, some material resources, not the actual money, but they all help to make the relief effort one which is solid and organized, better organized and more comprehensive and the like. So I appreciate all that. But the point I'm making is that for the supplementary estimates, the bulk of the money coming from money which we had put aside, thankfully, and people now see the sense in that, in for the contingency fund. Remember when we put the 1% point onto the VAT as a disaster levy? Remember the licks I got for that from some quarters? And I said that will turn out to be not a measure to soak the poor, but to help the poor. You see it happening now?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Of course, people must realize that when you have to take tough decisions with good policies and even to think ahead. So that's one. Secondly, the thoughtfulness which we had not to program the $40 million soft loan which we had negotiated with the World Bank, that we spent $20 million, but we kept $20 million US in reserve. So we have to do that, and we have about the rapid credit facility again from the IMF is about 16 million EC dollars. And we have a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank of about $5 million plus a grant between themselves and the Inter-American Development Bank of $500,000. These are U.S. denominations, which I just talked about the CDB. But the CDB loan of $5 million humanitarian, we have to pay back. We have to pay that back. You see what I mean?
Yes, Prime Minister.
And that's why that's why I'm doing so many things. Still being in touch with people and seeking if we can get monies for recovery and so forth, because that's hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's not going to be a 1-year recovery. It's going to be a much longer haul. So that I know that many people, we have gone through so many hardships, and I've been able to lead the country in a way, and we ride out the storms and we go forward and ride out the challenges that people have gotten the impression that some people that Ralph is a magician. Even those who oppose, they say, no, man, Ralph could get that, man, Ralph could get that. Well, I'm not a magician. We had to work hard in a very difficult environment externally to get assistance with resources. Like for instance, you have to think things out and do things specifically. Like Rabaka Bridge needs restorative work. And the Taiwanese had helped us to build that. I will go to them specifically with the Rabaka Bridge, and they will help us restore that. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And particular things you target, and if people not going, some will lend you money, some may give you some grant, and that's and then in addition to all of those things, we're not collecting as much revenue as before. I mean, the first quarter in this year, our revenues were down by about $4 million plus. Not bad, but that's up to the end of March. But April, I haven't seen the outturn yet, because April has just finished. We're just in the first couple of days. I would see it before the end of this week. The people in Ministry of Finance would give me the numbers for April. But April last year was not good, and I think April this year is going to be worse. I'm pretty sure. Last year with COVID, no,
Yeah.
that was the first of the months, full months under COVID. When so that, and I have to pay. I have to have $30 million a month to pay salaries and the like, even before the volcano. Remember, I raised the question that we have to try and get back to normalcy as quick as possible, because it's not easy to raise all the monies, to get the monies to pay all your monthly expenses, including salaries. Remember, I raised that.
Yes, Prime Minister.
This is a practical matter. Of course, the last year we didn't do as badly as many countries which are around us, and part of the reason is that the structure of our economy, but very importantly, we didn't lock down. Some countries, I mean, the outside world locked down on us to some extent, but we found spaces in which we can do things. And that was the idea in a practical way. But we got to get the country back as quickly as possible to normal. This is why I want us to get back to the orange zone, and then to do the cleanup, and once we get the okay to go back into the red zone and to be doing things and get agricultural production back up, fisheries. Let us get Some of the construction projects have been not put on hold, but delayed because of what has happened to the volcano. I mean, for obvious reasons. So to private construction, and so that we need to get back, and that's why we need also not to put a further conflict, a further wound on us by not taking the vaccine, taking the test, and then the COVID test and take the vaccine. It's not easy, and I'm going to ask people. I mean, there are persons who are the number of people who text me, and the texts usually begin like this: I know it's a difficult time and your hands full, but I have an issue I want you to help me with. And it's usually an issue which is personal to them, important to them. But in the overall scheme of things, it's not that it pales into significance, but it's a priority down the line. You see what I mean?
Yes, Prime Minister.
But all it takes to get that additional pressure piled on to you is for the Soufriere to just go into a period of quiet for a 2-week period. And some people begin to get in their heads, well, okay, it's all right. But we're in this thing for a long haul. And I mean, and I appreciate all you drawing to my attention, all the challenges and so forth. I mean, I understand that you have to do that, but it doesn't mean that you yourself have to make judgments as to when you're making your demands or your requests, to put them in a context as to all what is happening. You appreciate the broad point I'm making.
Yes, Prime Minister, I do.
I'm not looking for any. I'm not looking for any respite, but I'm not looking for any ease up because the pressure is there. All I'm saying, everybody has to be reasonable, and we all have to work together to building back our country together. And I know people have a diverse set of personal problems. You have to prioritize. The government has to prioritize. The country has to prioritize. You know, and so on and so forth. And we have to prioritize some things to build our resilience for the future, because as we have seen, many of the things which help us in this time, are things which we did wisely to build our resilience, both in terms of public policy, but also in terms of certain kinds of infrastructure. The Ravica Bridge, the jetties, the roads, you know, the Nemo itself, number of cadets who came on and counselors, and we have hired, and the hospitality center which you build out at Diamond, which World Central Kitchen is using, which is feeding so many people, and so on and so on. All those things are contingency fund. We have to do things that strengthen our resilience and make us less fragile.
There's in all of the questions that have been submitted, Prime Minister, in between I get comments to commend you on the outstanding job that you're doing, appreciative of your guidance and your support at this time for the country. I just thought that I should note that in between as well.
Well, it's good to hear, and thanks.
Are there plans by the government, and this one is specific by the government, to store the ash for future use as fertilizers?
Well, there is UNEP is advising on United Nations people, experts advising on possible uses. You know, and that is a matter which is in the works, in the making, and we will see where that advice leads us. But we are treating everything in a proper and scientific way. I don't want to say anything prematurely on it.
All right. Some additional questions. Let's just pull them up here. Okay, I think someone is asking if the food that is prepared at the shelter or that is taken to the shelter, if the nutritional value and if those things are being considered in terms of the preparation of the food.
Yes. The answer is yes. The nutritionists are involved. They do. The Ministry of Health also, quality checks are done. Obviously, you can't check every meal at every shelter, but they're doing quality checks. And when issues are raised, either by people who eat the food or people at the shelters, management, or when people go by to inspect and so forth, those questions are checked out.
There's a question here. I have to, try and figure my way around this one. I think you mentioned, Prime Minister, that some of the shelters, or probably it was Dr. Keyser, some of the shelters that they have specific plans in place because there's been an outbreak of COVID in those shelters. So they make sure that no one can go in and out of those shelters.
Yes.
I am seeing a question here, or it's a comment. I'm not too sure if you may have heard about it.
Yeah.
That there are some persons who are trying to avoid the lockdown by scaling the fence at this particular.
Yes. That's true. That happens certainly at one shelter, and that's why I say that by and large, that the persons are inside the shelters are understanding, and they even though they may grumble at the lockdown, most people realize it's for their own good in the circumstances where there's an outbreak of COVID, or at least a spike, an uptick. But remember, I also said that there are a few persons who want to create a law and order security issue.
Right.
That's what I was referring to. I didn't use this. I spoke about it because there are other. That's one manifestation of people who want to create a law and order issue. So we have to send police. Well, why would someone want to break down the gate? You want to scale the fence. You don't want to take. You don't have COVID. You don't want to take the test. You don't want to take the vaccine. You don't want to follow simple protocol by remaining in the space in which you and your family are. Because if anybody is inside of there who has COVID, and they do the checks with the others who are there, they will take you to they will either move you and put you somewhere else, or have you isolated at the particular center. They'll have the facilities. They try to handle those things, but you don't want to be involved in any of that. But you want to create a security issue.
We've seen the rains last week, and we are already hearing the experts say that it's likely that we would have a very active hurricane season.
Yes.
As we think about rebuilding and looking ahead, the importance of having communities and people assist the government in terms of getting drains and gutters in front of their homes clean at this time. I think this is a priority and something that we as citizens of this country
very, very critical. It's a very critical thing, and to have local leadership and citizen activism. We have to be careful, and this is always a challenge after disasters, during disasters, and after natural disasters, is for persons to have a sense that somebody else must do it for you. No, this is a time, as I've said before, you have to take up your bed and walk. And that's a metaphoric expression, not that you must take up your mattress and go home in a disorderly manner. That is to say, without an orderly process. We have to do it in an orderly process. When you return in, for instance, to your orange zone, you have to check out. You just don't pick up and go off. You do it you say, well, listen, I'm going back. This is one thing. The Prime Minister said I could take my mattress. I'm making arrangements to take my mattress now with me. You understand what I mean? We do everything in a proper and orderly manner. The thing is this: we all are Christian people, and most of us are. We have been brought up that way. But from Genesis right down to Revelation, something which permeates everything in the Bible is to do things in an orderly manner. If even you're having a protest on something, you have to have it in an orderly manner. In other words, you don't take away your right to but you have to do it in an orderly manner. And particularly normal affairs, you conduct them in an ordinary manner. You can't do them helter-skelter. We are a civilized people, and we have a lot of antecedents of our worth and merit, and currently our worth and merit. And we have a trajectory for the further ennoblement of this magnificent Vincentian component of our Caribbean civilization. And we do these things we do what is good and uplifting. All right.
Yeah, just a final one, because I know you have to.
Yes, I have to go.
Right. I think you may have answered this, but because it was raised, I just wanted you to provide the clarity. Would there be food support for evacuees returning to the red and orange zones? I know you've answered this, but I just
there would be continued supports. But what we want to do is to provide, for instance, for farmers and for non-farmers in the red and orange zones, income support, and for the non-farmers too. And you'll hear the numbers involved. And we want to provide, to assist with production supports to help you get you back on your feet. Now, if you're getting income support, most people would use, overwhelmingly, the persons when they get the income support will get the income support for them to buy their own food and cook, and you know what I mean, to do things. And you have to, other supports may be required, but again I come back to the thing that there is a limit to the extent of the resources possessed by the government. Because what we are talking about here, in the supplementary, we are talking about, for the next 6 months, expenditure in the region of about $100 million additional to what is in the existing budget. You see where I'm going?
Yes, Prime Minister.
And this is additional to your monthly things. We have to pay the salaries, we have to pay the pensions, we have to pay public assistance, we have to do all the various things, and we have to pay the debt which we owe. And I I don't know how much debt relief we are going to get in the sense of a moratorium. The CDB had given a moratorium in payments in respect of monies for the period for the 12 months for COVID now. We have to see if we can get a further extension of things like that because of what happened with this and other places that we owe, Of course, thankfully we don't have a lot of private sector debt, but you have to pay the private sector. That's not a question where you're going. People buy your bonds, you have to pay your bonds. You see what I mean?
Yes, please.
You have to pay your interest on your bonds because you want to go to the market all the time. There is the question of the treasury bills. It's a role, we maintain instability, and I want to give, I want the investors out there to know that we have a difficult and challenging period. But be assured that we are not going to leave you who lent us money in the lurch. I'm talking about people, a number of small people who would buy treasury bills and the like, and institutions which are holding people's money in trust and the like. Banks, insurance companies, etc. I want to give them that assurance that and they would have seen that in the midst of COVID, and they will see that they've seen that also. But they would appreciate that I had to alert public servants, for instance, particularly some who seem as though they were quite enjoying staying at home and don't want to go back to work. Quite enjoying the idea of just being home and then not working and getting the money. Huh? And when you talk about going back, you get all kind of no, you can't go back because of this, because of that. And I was signaling to them, please live in the real world. Live in the real world with me. Don't live somewhere else.
It's Prime Minister.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Have
Thanks.
a good day, and thanks
Good,
always.
fine.
All right then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
On today's edition of our program, I Soufriere, the morning edition, Mr. Roderick Stewart, lead scientist monitoring the Soufriere volcano, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves via telephone.
Okay, guys, so that was the update for today. I hope that you guys are doing good. I'm still a bit under the weather, but I just want to make sure that I provided these updates. So, as you hear, there's the volcano. There's no little to no activities up there. The last eruption was like 10 days ago. So we just finger crossed that the good news continues and people can move back into their homes. I hope you guys have an enjoyable day. I'm gonna end this stream now. Be safe, be kind, love hard, and forgive easy. And I'll see you guys in my next one. So later, guys.